Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, April the 16th to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan.
Here.
Holst.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
McCusker. Schoblum is absent, and Mayor Robinson.
Here. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after we finish the pledge, we'll have a moment of silence for the victims of the Boston Marathon. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City Council meeting. At this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. This moves us on to item 5 this evening on the agenda, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Ross Nelson from Welch Mill Canoeing and Tubing. I come every year. Usually in the spring. I decide to come early in the winter. My wife and I are going to continue running the canoeing and tubing again and seeking permission to put in at Riverside Park as previous years. And if there's an issue, let me know, please.
We're fine as long as the insurance and liability and everything's good to go.
You've been getting it, right? You've been getting the, okay. Do I need to sign?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Do you want a motion or?
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the use of Riverside Park for the canoe rental.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Bill and a second by Merle to approve Riverside Park for launch point for the canoe and tube rental. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that moves us to item 6 this evening, the public hearing. At this time, we'll have a public hearing for Resolution 2013, adopting assessments for property cleanup.
This is sort of the final step in the process that we've been going through for the past probably multiple years as far as parcel cleanup on the Wilson property. We did receive the court order to allow us to go on to the site to do the cleanup. That was done. After that point in time, we accumulated all the associated costs the city has had with the project. We submitted them to the property owner. After there was no response, we submitted them to the court. The court then did authorize us to go ahead and pursue payment through assessment. So that's what we're doing tonight. The total cost to do the work was $10,070.72. We'll assess that. Basically, it's just a 1 year. It has to be paid within 1 year. It's a 5% interest rate. Obviously, if it doesn't get paid with the taxes, it continues to roll over at that interest rate. But it's not a multi-year assessment or anything like that. It goes on to the taxes for next year, and it's expected to be paid. And it'll be split twice on the property tax bill that year to be paid.
Okay, this time we'll open up the public hearing for anybody that wishes to address the council on this property cleanup. Seeing as there's no one here to address the council, at this time we'll close the public hearing, and the chair will take a motion to approve the resolution as presented assessing the cost of cleanup of the described property.
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion by Merle, second by Bill. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I got a quick question, Robbie.
Yep.
You know, Aaron, I kind of been reluctant to do this through this whole thing. I didn't really care for it. It isn't our fault, I guess. We didn't cause it and stuff. But I really get reluctant when it's an elderly person. You watch these shows on TV on hoarding, You also watch these shows on TV of the pickers that like to drive by and see junk in the yard. That's a lot of money for an elderly person. And I don't know what the answer is. If we have this again, I would really like to discuss it more. It really bothers me. $10,000 is a lot of money for an elderly person. I know when we were going through it, we had meetings about it, and I talked to the police. I was more concerned that the county could help with it. There were some mental issues or things that should have been talked about. So this is the right thing. It's probably the right thing to do, but it just really bothers me. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. This time, we'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For those at home, I will read the consent agenda. Item A is adjusting correct claims for the accounting period ending April the 12th, 2013. Item B is the meeting minutes from the April 2nd, 2013 City Council meeting. Item C is the iPad training work session. Item D is the second reading and adoption of Ordinance 329, authorizing sale of city-owned real property. Item E, introduction and first reading of Ordinance 330, amending Section 152.648 of the Cannon Falls zoning ordinance referencing the B2 Highway Business District. Item F, a new liquor license for RJ's Barbecue. And item G, approval of a massage license for Emily Miller. Are there any items anyone wishes to bring down this evening? If there are none, at this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Now we'll move on to council business. And the first item is South of School Utility Extension Project. Mr. Reeves.
We've included in the packet some plans from Greg as far as extending utilities to the homes south of the school and the estimated assessment costs along with that construction plan. I think the council will remember a few years back, we discussed this issue with the property owners. At that time, there really wasn't a push from the council to force them to connect. And at the same time, there wasn't maybe a large need from the property owners to connect at that time. But when the city got the bids in for the East Side project and they came in very competitive, we discussed it as staff and thought that it would probably be a good idea to bring this issue up again. We're not sure that we'll find a better time than now to bid this project and get a good price for it. You know, we've got a contractor that's got work that's right in the area. They're going to be in the area for multiple years. The contractor will be for a couple different projects. You know, obviously there's no guarantee that that's who would get the project if we went forward with it, but it would seem realistic and likely that they would, and that we would get a good price for it. So we did we did send out an invitation to meet with the property owners, and we did do so before the last council meeting. We discussed the issues with them. You know, as the council remembers, back in the early 2000s, there was a proposed housing development that was going to be going in just east of these homes, across from the school. And as part of that project, the developer needed to be annexed in. To do so, these homes had to be annexed in as well to make it a annexation that connected. They could run utilities through, those sort of things. So when that was done, the homeowners were promised that if they agreed to annexation, that they would be hooked up to city utilities for a fairly minimal cost. And unfortunately, what happened was after the annexation went through, the housing development failed, never really got started, so nothing happened with the properties. Since that time, they've been in the city, but they have not been hooked up to city utilities. And at this time, it would seem that if we are going to move forward with this, and it will have to happen, the home septic systems will start to fail. There's no way around that. They don't last forever. And when they do start to fail, the only option is going to be to connect to city utilities. The issue is that the longer we wait, we would assumedly see higher prices to do this, which would mean higher prices for the homeowners to pay. We discussed at the meeting, and an idea that staff is supportive of is that if we would do the project now, install the infrastructure, put in the stubs for the homes, and the homeowners would have the opportunity to connect as their septic systems fail. So if they have an operative septic right now, they wouldn't have to connect until they have an issue with it, which could be, next year, 2 years, 5 years, 6 years down the road, somewhere in that area. Then they would connect at that time. When they connect, they would pay their share of the cost here. We would give them the same assessment terms as we're doing for the east side, west side project, 15 years at 5% interest. And then they would connect as needed. The county is the entity that handles the inspections of septic systems, so they would be responsible for inspecting the systems, letting us know if there's any problems, which they do now. And if there are issues, we'll be able to identify those through the county, and then we'll have to let those property owners will know that it's time for them to connect. And like I said, at that time, that's when their assessment would kick in and go into effect. The property owners seem to be fairly agreeable to that. We didn't necessarily, get an individual answer from all of them, but they seemed, to be agreeable to that idea, and that would allow them then to connect as needed instead of as soon as one person has a septic issue, all of them have to connect. It would be just in due time when they need to, they would connect. The city would have some costs involved, obviously, with carrying the initial infrastructure expenses that we're going to put into it, but through the assessment amounts and the term, we would get that back with the interest and things, and it wouldn't be really, we would have some short-term costs, but over long-term, we get that money back without any issues, and we're not talking a huge expense either. So that's the idea that we're promoting, and if that's the case, and if the council's supportive of it, what I would do is put together an assessment agreement with the individual property owners that detail what we kind of talked about here. We would present them to the property owners, and as long as we get everybody's signature on it, we can move forward and do the project. For some reason, if some aren't as interested in doing that, then we'd have to go through the more formal assessment process where we'd have to have hearings, public hearings on assessments and things like that, and that could delay the project longer, which could increase the cost, we don't know, but if we can get them to sign assessment agreements, then we won't have to worry about going through any of those sort of things. So, but like I said, if the council is supportive, that's what our next step would be, is to put together an assessment agreement, present it to the homeowners, and see what kind of response we get to move it forward.
Okay. Okay, and we have a lot of it looks like a lot of the citizens out here tonight that live in that area. I guess we want to hear from them and then hear from the council also on their feelings. Anybody got anything at this point?
Well, yeah, I think we should do it at this time. I have no problem with the 15 years, 5%. My only issue would be is having an open-ended time frame for them to hook up. I would like to see maybe like a 10-year sunset on it. At the end of 10 years, if your system hasn't failed, you gotta hook up at that time. That would be.
I think 5 to 7 years would be plenty.
So how do we plan the financing for that, Aaron, when we put the expense out now? If we do a bond and it's broke down, but they don't have to hook up and we don't get the money, and you say that eventually we would get the money, so I'm trying to figure all that out. It'd actually be cheaper maybe if we could do it today and they didn't hook up for 10 years, and then the cost would be double at that time. We can't charge double, so I'm trying to figure out how that all balances out.
Well, we would figure out, we would take a look as far as how to pay for it, whether we would include it, say, like in a bonding for a different project. If we would just do it, say, like an interfund loan, we'd pay for it out of, say, the general fund, and then we'd have it set up as a loan that gets paid back as the assessments get paid back. There's multiple ways that we can do it. Let's say if we add it to a bond, add it to a debt service, or let's say when we do the whatever project it is, something like that we add to it. if we don't get payments in, we would have to make the payments ourselves for a little while until we start getting people connecting. And as they connect, then their assessment payments would take over what we're paying for the debt service. But being 350,000, it might be that we would take a look at doing this sort of as just paying for it from, reserves within the different funds, and then we would carry that cost, knowing that as they connect, we'll get that money paid back, and it would come that way. So my guess would be is you'd probably do it as just paying it out of, say, general fund reserve or things like that, and then we just get loan payments back from them.
I think it's, I guess, I think it's a thing you have to adjust to. I understand that financially. But I think to go 10 years is kind of asking a lot of the city. I guess I would be more inclined to Merlis's comments on a 5-year type deal, to be able to adjust to it and stuff. But also for Greg, is this something that you're going to do mains in there? So if that other development came along, that we have the mains up the street and then we'd hook up to them? Are we strictly going to do it just for this project, or are we going to plan for that other land someday?
What, right now, the water and sewer mains that would serve not only these 10 lots, but also the 49 acres that was part of the original development are on the north side of 19.
Right.
So as part of these improvements, we would jack or tunnel water and sewer under 19, and we estimated the cost for the crossings and split that not only over the 10 parcels, but also the 49 acres of the other lot on an area basis. So they carry the share of getting the sewer and water closer to them. And then we would run the water and sewer down the south ditch in 19, if you will, between the two gravel roads, 71st there next to the cemetery and 72nd on the east side, and then run down those gravel roads and stub out to each property lot that way. The assumption would be then at some point when the 49 acres develops, they already would have some potential lots fronting those utilities, so we're also including them with 7 actual full assessments in addition to the area charge for the crossing. But then they would connect to the mains and run them south from there, and also provide us a water main loop in the future, because we would have 2 dead ends for now. They wouldn't serve a lot of people, but at some point as that 49 acres develops, they would utilize these mains as part of it. So yeah, we are looking at that and trying to minimize the improvements now while taking care of the issues, but providing flexibility for that 49 acres moving forward.
Is that, Aaron, is that 49 acres, is that something that's, I'm listening to Greg there, they're gonna be assessed on the 49 lots, or are we just assessing for the?
We're going to assess them their share of the cost to get the mains underneath the road
Okay.
based on acreage, and they've got obviously the largest amount of acreage to get, that they'll have the benefit on it. And I think we assume that they could serve like 7 houses off the lines that we're putting in. So that's all we're assessing them for at this time. When they would actually come in and do more homes, they would have to be assessed then the cost of the other lines that would serve the houses, but they've already paid their portion of the mains to get them across the road. So then it would just be the utility line cost that they'd be paying to serve any more homes besides 7 that they might put in. So anything above that, they would still have to pay for their share of, well, 100% actually, it would only be them, the cost of utility lines then that go in.
So actually, we're gonna get 7 lots that aren't being used right now to pay into this cost right now.
7 lots, and plus that whole area would also be chipping in their share to get the mains underneath the road to that side.
Right,
Yep.
okay,
Is there
thank you.
stormwater drains?
This is just sanitary sewer and water, and we'd put the streets back to gravel and then restore any sodded areas. We wouldn't be looking at any street improvements or any stormwater at this point. The thought there may be wait and see what happens with the 49 acres.
No blacktop?
Any further discussion?
Is that a big deal to get a quote on the blacktop for them streets, or is it something you'd rather not do right now, or why aren't we doing that?
I think right now the thought was the utilities are the issue. As their septic and/or well start to have issues, no one out there can hook up right now on their own without bringing everyone else in. So this route that we've laid out is probably the least we can do as far as city mains to provide access to all 10 lots to hook up on an individual basis. The big hurdle is, when do they have to hook up and how much it's gonna cost? And what we've got here is just addressing the water and sewer needs and having it available so they can hook up as their systems fail on an individual basis, without looking at improving the streets at any point at this as part of these improvements.
Is there some way, Aaron, we could get a cost estimate of just doing an overlay on that when it's done and know where that would be at?
Yeah, I mean, we can always look at that. I mean, I think the long-term solution is to actually, redo those streets to some sort of standard with stormwater and things. But, at this time, just because of the situation that we're dealing with out there with these homes, is we're trying to keep the cost as low as possible to get them what they essentially need, which is the utility services, the sewer and the water. The road itself, while it would be nice to get that into a city standard, isn't an essential item right now. We're already talking about, depending on the homeowner's cost to extend lines from their home to the actual stubs that we'll put in, we're talking about a much more significant amount of money than they ever anticipated when annexed. So at this time, we're trying to do everything we can, just let's get the basics done for now, and then once we get that part done, in the future, if there's at some point we want to take a look at roads there, we can. But it's really not essential, considering that these roads do not at this time tie into any other city streets. I mean, they're basically just there to serve these homes. So to redo them up to, say, city standards would make sense if we had a lot of, say, through traffic going to other neighborhoods on the other side of the homes. But really, at this point, they are just served by these homes. So that's why we left that out for now.
Yeah, I don't wanna see curb and gutter and storm sewer and all that, but,
Or sidewalks,
what's that?
or sidewalks.
Yeah, especially sidewalks.
Well, I think that's something that, as far as curb gutter, storm sewer, that should probably wait until we see if this development ever goes forward. And then at that time, address it. Just that, so you folks understand that if that ever does come to pass, there would be some more cost associated with that down the road, but hopefully someone will develop that land soon.
What's that? A lot of money. Well, I think that, I don't know what it costs. If it would, I think it'd be nice if they'd have that option. If we came back and said, we can just blacktop your existing road when we're done. No curb and gutter. The road is draining, it's working now. We can do an overlay and it costs each one of you $700 to do that.
We can check. I mean, we can definitely look at what a cost would be just
It's all
for,
high enough, we don't wanna do that,
Yep.
that's fine too.
we can get a quick cost just to see what it'd be to overlay the roads. Yep, that's not a
With
problem.
These blacktop people coming in,
Yep.
and when all their equipment is here, it's probably gonna be an advantage to do this right now, so. I think it'd be nice to have that option for them.
Greg, how much would that change the way the water flows off of those roads, and would it change drainage over in those areas if you blacktopped it on top of what's already there? Are we gonna cause problems by doing that, without having to dig ditches and everything else at that point?
Sometimes the concern is when you pave it, the water's gonna get somewhere a little quicker than it does now. You could probably get away with just overlaying the roads the way they are, and the water will still go where it is. There are probably some issues out there now that we don't know about when they're not paved, so I understand what you're saying, Leroy, about paving them, and now we've got the work in town. My fear is at some point, not too distant future, we'd be back maybe adding storm sewer and curb and tying this into a larger development, at least maybe 72nd, and, like Aaron says, these are two dead-end streets that, yes, we maintain them, but the residents haven't come in and says we want them fixed. And that's just more cost on top of just getting the water and sewer taken care of. But we can do a quick estimate based on the prices we've got on the east side project, just to get a ballpark number for an overlay, just so we have it.
Yeah, when I got on the council, one of my goals was to get all blacktop streets, and then I could get off here. Now you're gonna have gravel streets again.
I don't want you to leave too soon,
Okay.
once you get iPad training.
Okay, I guess at this point, I want to open it up to any of the homeowners to come up and speak to us on this, if anybody wishes to address the council. I knew we couldn't keep you sitting down too much longer, Mike.
Mike McNamara, Cannon Falls. I guess the first thing, if the council is concerned about the cost it's going to cost them, I'd just like to address that since we got annexed 7 years ago, my taxes have doubled since I've been in there. So I've been paying city taxes, yet I have no city services out there, haven't. And I would think that would more than help offset the cost of what it's going to cost you to hold it for a while. Also, when they first came in, you know, with this development, we still got the paperwork when they were giving us this song and dance down there, and it was going to cost each of us out there $12,000. Now, to your point, Bubba, is you're worried about the elderly and what it's going to cost them. On 10,000, it's going to cost each of us out there, individually, over $30,000 for this project to go through. Now, you talk about a lot of money, and we got some elderly people out there, too, that got to try and incur that cost. So I guess that's what I want to say.
Thanks, Mike. Anyone else?
My name is Mike Haas. I'm probably the newest member of the community out there. Purchased our home 7 years ago. Basically, in the midst of this agreement, with the promises made to us, made a big investment in this community and moving my family here and purchasing our property. And to me, the circumstance boils down to simple economics. If I buy a car for $30,000, I certainly don't run it for half of its life and then park it in a junkyard. You know, I've got a new home with a working well and septic. I'd hate to see my investment in that go out the window before I need it, because you know, that's a financial burden on me and my family. Also being you know, a relatively short time invested in that home. And not necessarily having the, you know, the mortgage as deep into our mortgage as some people. My fear for my family is that, you know, a large cost at this time could turn my mortgage upside down, maybe put me in foreclosure, but definitely ask me to look for a different community. So I agree with Mike's comment that, you know, that the time invested that we have and the city taxes that we've paid, a 7-year investment by these community members, I think bears to withstand the, you know, the 7-year or 10-year investment that we might be asking of the city to hold or delay payment, and you know, until it's necessary for us to hook up at time. So I would just encourage all of you to consider, you know, to delay the payment until need be, or to hold off on the project. And wait to see if there's some development around the corner with the 49 acres that we've talked about.
Do you know what the life expect? How long does your well last or your septic last? How long is it good for?
Mine individually? Or any? Well, that's anybody's guess. It's dependent on how well it was built to start with. So,
How
I mean,
long has your well been there?
well, I believe my home was built in '76.
So it's been there since then? And what about your
I
septic
assume
tank?
the septic at the same time,
And how often do you have it pumped?
every 2 years. Yeah.
And you don't know how long that would last either?
I'm hoping for a really long time, you know? I mean, that's the investment. I mean, I grew up in a house that was 100 years old and had one septic system, you know? Now, was it maybe need a little work at that time, but, you know, I think with the technology and that we're at today, you know, life expectancy of, you know, a septic system is, you know, should be at least, I would think, half of the expectancy of the home. Thank you.
Aaron, do we have any records or anything talking about any past inspections of any of the septic systems out there to see where they are, and
You know,
are
we
that
could-
any of them close to failing, that's gonna
Yeah.
cause everybody to have to do it?
We can talk to the county and see if they have, any sort of record as far as when last inspections were done, or, anything like that there might be. I would have to assume, because we talked about this a couple years ago. At that time, we had a few homeowners who said that they were starting to have problems, or having their septics pumped regularly. So if that was 2 years ago, I'd have to think that it's gotten only worse since then. So my guess would be is that there has to be some houses out there that are having some issues. But I don't have any, inspection stuff. I know, Greg, do you know as far as like life expectancy anymore? If systems that are put in the 70s, 80s, any averages or?
Well, I'd say at least 20 years plus, and it's gonna depend on the soils. You got heavier soils, it's probably gonna be less. You got well draining soils, which we probably have out there, it's gonna be longer. Depends on the maintenance.
I guess I'd like to see some kind of numbers on, seeing if
Well,
there's anything that's going to fail.
I guess what we could do is ask the county to do an inspection, and they could go out and just inspect the septics, take a look, and they can give us a status on them, and, we have just had the county do that last year for a few houses that we knew, had some issues, and we needed to get them figured out, and then the county came out and did their inspections and, found out that the septics weren't operating the way they were supposed to be, and they were dumping, in those cases, a highly illegal manner. So it would be something where we could, as far as keeping this moving, talk to the county about going out and having inspections done in these systems to make sure that they're in compliance, that there aren't issues, things like that, and then we can have an idea at least of what kind of condition they're in.
Because I think, before we put a time limit on anything, I think we need to know, are these things gonna last 5 years? Are the septic's gonna die in 2 years, 5 years, 15 years, 20 years from now? Yeah, anything could happen and one of them could fail, but if we've got an idea, that kind of, I know we're carrying, we'll be carrying it, but at least like we said, these people have been paying taxes in the city, they don't get any sewer, sewer and water services, through the city, and other things. We need to look at the whole big picture when we look at it and have some type of numbers there to base it off of. I know it's going to be cheaper to probably do it now, but if we know a little bit more and then going forward, then we might be able to say, okay, yeah, it's just better to do it now, or it's better to maybe wait another couple of years and then look at it again. Base it off of that. Because if we do have a septic that's going sooner, I don't think these people want to wait 3 years and all of a sudden the price of this go up, another $20,000 or another $10,000 per home. It's already expensive enough for what it's going to cost. So that's something to look at, I think.
The last house that was sold out there, is that 7 years then? Were you the last? Okay. So obviously, at that time, when they did the inspection, everything was right.
Well, Aaron, can we take a kind of a dual track here, keep moving it forward while we get this done, and then determine if we, what kind of time frame we should set on this?
Yeah, what I would say is that what we can do is, basically the plans are pretty much ready to go. We'll hold off on actually going out for bids or anything yet, but what we can do is put together the assessment agreements, get them to the property owners, at least get that process started with them to make sure that looks okay. Knowing that we may have, we may be adding a clause that caps it, and then at the same time, we can talk to the county about doing inspections, and then we can get a better idea of, like the Mayor said, where the systems are at now, potentially how much longer could we be looking at, having them on septic before they roll over, those sort of things. We can definitely keep doing it that way, because we need to get the assessment agreements to them to review anyways, and we would just put in the cover letter with them that just know that this could change, a cap could be put on it depending on how it goes with this inspection, and that way we can hopefully get those issues resolved, find out about that, and then bring it back, hopefully even to the next meeting, and be able to discuss
That's
further.
what I was gonna ask, is we've got, because of the way the calendar works, we got 3 weeks till our next meeting.
Hopefully we'll have enough time to get that done. It'll be up to the county as far as inspection timing, when they can get out there or not. But they've been very cooperative with us so far and those sort of things. So, yeah, that's fine. If that's okay, then I'll put together some, I guess, draft assessment agreements, get those out to the owners to start taking a look at, we always recommend discuss with attorney, whatever they need to do. And then we'll also talk to the county about doing inspections and getting that report back. And then we'll know, where we stand as far as the systems themselves, and if there may be some that need it now, maybe some don't, some will soon, that sort of thing.
Robbie, I'd like to make a comment about the last person that spoke there. You know, I talked to Aaron about this stuff here about a month ago. Incidentally, a septic system is designed to last 20 years. If you get more than that, you're pretty lucky. Lots of times what happens is septic systems are put in, and you have a family and they're designed for, if you got 6, 7 people in the house, then lots of times the kids grow up and then there's 2 people left. If you did have the full 7 people in there at the end of the life of that thing, it probably wouldn't be working. The other thing is that in a close type deal like you got out there, if you did what I discussed with Aaron, if you did need a septic system out there, you're probably going to end up with a mound system. If the city didn't annex this, you're probably, one of your things you're going to have to go with is a mound system just because of closeness and the wells and the houses. Once you get into that, it's at least a $15,000 deal for a mound system. The other thing I asked Aaron about is if somebody came in today and said, hey, I want sewer right now, my tanks are full and I'm pumping them every month. You say that you've been paying higher taxes for the last 7 years, so where does our liability come in that we have to furnish you with sewer and water? And where does this all come in? So I asked Aaron if they come in and say, you give me sewer and water right away and we can't do it for a year. And they say, well, okay, you're going to give me some kind of adjustment for my pumping or something. So this is not a simple and a cut-dried thing. I told Aaron, what are we going to do? Allow them $100 a month to get their septic systems pump out till we get sewer and water in someday? I don't know. It would have been nice if it hadn't been annexed in till all this housing development went. But this is another one of those things where it went where it was at the time, and now we're trying to deal with it the best we can. But just so you know, the average septic system is not made to last, 40, 50 years. You get tree roots, you get bacteria, you get everything else in them things. They only do last so long. So it is something, if your septic is over 20 years, you're probably going to have some issues. Now, the well system, that's another thing. You can put a new pump down there. If your casing's good and all that, that should last 100 years. But the septic thing is a 20, 25-year thing. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not,
You have one more.
Come on up.
My name is Marlon Huseby, and my taxes went up about $1,500 after we got annexed in out there. And if you take that for the last 7 years, it's pretty near $10,000 we've paid. We haven't got nothing. We get a snowplow that comes up there, plows the snow out, a couple times a year. But that's what we got. And I'm pretty sure if you look in the figures, that it's pretty close to $10,000 we've already paid, and we have nothing.
Okay.
Take it for what it's worth.
Thanks, Marlon.
Well, just to put some things in perspective, when Cedar Hills was annexed into town, they had to wait a few years before we did water and sewer there. They were in a similar situation where they were paying taxes without services for a while. And when we did that project, we required them all to hook up within a year. So I think some of the things we've been talking about this evening, whether it's 5, 7, or 10-year period, seems a little more fair than what we even did for the folks on Cedar Hills. So just something to put it in perspective.
Didn't we discuss putting services out there like a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
Out
And
for
nobody
these?
wanted it?
Right, correct.
Clarice?
Clarice McNamara. First, I'd like to address Bubber on the street. You got two problems on 71st Avenue Way. Part of it's township. So if that road was ever improved, wouldn't the township have to help pay for it? You have Mills Farm on the end. That brings across heavy equipment in the spring and the fall. So there's an issue there. The second issue, if you do stub us in, and one at a time we get it, with all the equipment on our roads goofing up the road, the blacktop, softer blacktop road, to dig us in. It's gonna just be moot point to put anything else on our streets until the 10 year, which I have no problem with the 10 years and stubbing us in, but I would like to see 10 years. We've been gotten such a rotten deal on this whole thing, you know, really rotten deal. The township let us go, the city picked us up and both dropped the ball on us. So there's so many hurt feelings on this, because I think you could go to any one of us on the 12 group there. No one wanted to be annexed. It was because of the 49 acres, and they promised us the world. We still didn't give them the okay. They proposed numbers for us, and we turned them down. Because, we didn't turn them down, we never had a chance to go any further. The township sold us out. They took our taxes that year and sent us into the city. So, you gotta look at it at 2 points. We're gonna be hit. Bubber's right on the septic systems. The only thing, there's only three, maybe, I think it's 3 families in the whole establishment that have more than 2 people in their household. So our systems could last another 5, 10, 15 years at that rate. The trouble is if we go to sell our homes or someone passes away, we're gonna have to have the stub-ins. So I think that's a foregone conclusion. We need the stubs, but we sure would like the help on the 10 years. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Got it?
Yep,
Okay.
Keep it moving.
So what, if there's no further discussion, and I think Clarice, I think you make a good point there. I mean, as far as the 10 years and not knowing what's going to happen. And that's kind of why we wanted to see if any of those are going to fail anytime soon. I mean, I think we can still go through with that also. But at this time, the chair will take a motion to approve moving forward with the project and deferring assessments until property owners connect to the system as needed when their septic systems fail, with the fact that they may end up having to, we may end up putting a cap on it later.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Bill, second by Merle. Any further discussion?
So we're just moving ahead now to get the prices to see where this is all at, not.
We pretty much, we've got a decent price, we've got the engineer estimate done. What we're gonna do now to move it forward basically is I'll put together the assessment agreements, I'll send them to the property owners so they can review them. We can clean up any questions between myself and the property owners before we bring everything back. And at the same time, we can talk to the county, get some inspections done, and find out if we think that, some of these ones are gonna be ready next year and some aren't gonna be ready for 15 years. It'll just give the council then a better idea to decide, do they wanna put a cap on it or not, or is it even necessary to do so? So we can move them both at the same time. And then at the next meeting, hopefully we'll find out some idea about the conditions, but then also if we've got the agreement on if we've got the consensus on the assessment agreements, we can go ahead and approve things and get it going. And that way we can get the bids out for the project soon and get it done this year still.
So we got 2 more votes.
Oh, yeah, you got more votes to go.
Move ahead with this thing.
Yep, you got more votes to go.
Also,
Just open it up so we can see where we're at.
Well, you'd have to vote again to approve the assessment agreements. You got to vote again to actually authorize Greg putting bids out. You'll have to vote again to actually approve the bids. You'll have to vote again when we talk about the financing. So you got lots of votes left. But this is just kind of keeping everything moving towards those votes.
Okay.
Aaron, one other thing that I was thinking about is if maybe we keep the whack and sack fees on this at today's cost instead of what it might cost 10 years from now to hook it up, that because if they had to pay for that now, pay at that rate instead of what it might be down the road.
Yeah, that's something you can put into an assessment agreement. you can lock in the cost and say that whatever time that they do connect, they would pay X and X, which could be the
Well,
amounts that are today.
And if we do that with the whack and sack, it should say, locked in at what it is now and/or lower. Because the assessments,
True.
the whack and sack could be lower down the road. Probably not, but it
Could
could.
be. I'm just trying to think of how that would work out.
Let's cover our bases.
We've never been able to figure that one out yet, but it could be. You never know.
I mean, we'll do everything we can to help them to
Cover our
keep it at as low a cost as possible. That's what we're
true.
trying to do.
It's possible, I guess. So yeah, that's fine. I'll add that in there.
When they give us an estimate of 30,000 roughly, that was just thrown out here tonight.
No, we have, that's them using the assessment costs that we gave them. So we've got an estimated assessment cost per lot of about $20,000
Okay,
roughly.
Was the whack and sack figured in on that? or is
Nope.
that just-
No,
no,
that's
no,
just
no.
the construction cost.
These, they're about 18 to 19,000
So when you add
each,
in-
and then you add in the whack and sack.
And then
it
the
brings
cost
up
that
our
they'll have
20s.
to extend pipes from their home to connect into the actual stubs, that's when you would get to that, close to that area, yes.
Right.
Yep.
So, any further discussion? If not, Chair, we've already got a motion by Bill and a second by Merle. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. And 1 no and 4 ayes to keep this moving along to look at it. All right. Okay. Moves us to item 8B, East Side Project 1. And the presentation of the finance plan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. George Eilertson from Northland Securities. The East Side project, tonight I'm here to talk about the financing for that. As was referenced, you received very good construction bids. Early on, when I was working with city staff and your engineer with the estimates, we had a bond size certainly substantially higher, and so you received very good construction bids, hence a lower bond issue. But tonight, we've got, or rather, the city council has a couple items to review and then consider. Tonight, you're not issuing bonds. Tonight, we're simply reviewing the financing, the estimated financing, and then setting a date to sell bonds. So first of all, I'll just hit upon the highlights within this finance plan. And first of all, the first highlight I should mention is you'll see the figure of $2,230,000 throughout that document. And actually, when it comes time to considering a resolution calling for the sale, we'll actually have you refer to $100,000 more for $2,330,000. That's due to the Medical Center Street Extension Project, which city staff has, and I have referred to the bond attorney that provides a legal opinion on these matters to see if we can include that within the project financing. They have okayed that. And the reason why is developer signed an assessment agreement as well as 100% of the project costs will be assessed to that project.
Yep, it's for the Molinar Clinic. We had discussed that we're gonna put a city street in, but the clinic agreed to pay 100% of that cost. So we just figured, why not add that 100,000 to this bond, because they're gonna pay the 100% of the cost anyways, but that way, as we get the payments back in, we just put it towards this instead of having to, say, pay it out of the general fund and get money back over the course of the assessment agreement or something like that. It's just much cleaner to do it this way, and it doesn't cost us any more money to do it this way, since the amount that was agreed to as far as interest rates in the assessment agreement are more than what we anticipate the bond interest rate's gonna be.
Thank you. So just to look at an overview of this overall financing, again, $2,330,000, you just heard about the 100,000. The other part of the project is really split in half, exactly in half. $1,115,000 is for street-related improvements. And that's $297,000 of that will be assessed to benefiting property owners, 15 years at 5%. The balance of that portion of the project will be financed through a tax levy on all taxable property throughout the city. The other half of the overall bond issue, the other $1,115,000, is for the utility portion of the project. And just a quick breakdown of how are you going to pay that portion back, it's 60% sewer, 28% water, and 12% storm. So there'll be adjustments to the various utilities that are referenced there to generate the revenue to pay debt service on these bonds. Any question on the overall project? Again, this is the East Side project, which you're familiar with. The financing, we're actually looking at taking financing bids the morning of June 4th and then coming back that evening, which would be your first council meeting in the month of June, at 6:30 to consider the award to the low bid. We'll work with city staff and Standard & Poor's on the assignment of your city bond rating, which I've said several times in front of you is very strong. It's a AA minus, and so we'll work with them. One of the benefits certainly of the current bond market, and I said this to you last fall when we helped you with a refunding bond, the bond market is still quite favorable. We're looking at a blended average interest rate in the very low 2%, right around 2.1% based upon today's rates. Now again, the sale of the bonds is not until June 4th, but hopefully I'll be here giving you news on June 4th with similar interest rates. Another benefit of the current bond market is we're able to get early call dates. The call date is that date that you can prepay or refinance bonds, and the February 1st of 2020 is the call feature for this bond issue. It's likely, even with favorable interest rates in today's market, that you'll consider a refinance at one point during the life of this bond issue. You might ask, why am I up here in the month of April talking about a bond sale in the month of June? But the reason is we're actually allowing for the assessment process to take place. The assessments will be certified by the time you sell bonds, and then you'll have that waiting period where people could perhaps choose to prepay their assessments. If people do prepay their assessments, what we'll do is buy down, apply that to the bond issue to buy it down. So you'll potentially be borrowing less money. So I'll have that figure for you, June 4th. Again, preliminary numbers, but the preliminary interest rates look very strong. The overall financing is very sound. So that's the overall finance plans, just the preview of the actual sale. Two action items for you to consider in form of a resolution. One would be a resolution approving the sale or setting the sale of the bonds. Again, I would ask that when you make that motion that we refer to $2,330,000, and simply that sets a sale date for June 4th. And provided the market is favorable, I mean, you'll go ahead and perhaps consider the award of bonds that night. The second would be, which is number 3, is the reimbursement resolution, or a resolution establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. I'm not saying this right around tax time, but this is relating to the IRS. And that is that passing this resolution gives you the opportunity to reimburse yourself with the proceeds of this bond issue if you have project-related expenses that you pay for out of the general fund. Selling bonds on June 4th gets you money right around the first part of July. So again, if you have any first invoices, other project expenses that you need to pay before the first part of July, passing this resolution just reserves that right to pay yourself back. Any questions on the need for a reimbursement resolution?
No.
Actually, on most projects that deal with new projects, we see this reimbursement resolution being considered. So, and then finally, not in the form of a resolution, but a financial advisor agreement. whenever I work with you on putting together a bond issue, we always just have an agreement between the city and our firm, Northland Securities, stating our purpose or our duties before the bonds are sold and those after the sale as well. So entertain any questions that the council might have.
Aaron, I got a quick question for you. So if we ended up doing this other extension on the east side, then do we have to do another bond on that, or can we wait with this and do it all bonded together, or what's the story on that?
Like I said, I mean, if we do that other project, we'll have to kind of decide, we may do a separate bond on that, but because it's a smaller amount, we may look at other financing options for it. But just with the scheduling of it, I'm not sure that, I mean, if we figure it out in time, like, let's say at next meeting on, May, whatever, 7th, we got it all worked out and it looks good and we got agreements in place, we would just be able to amend this one, I think, still, to be able to fit it in if we wanted to.
Right.
Now, if for some reason we don't have anything worked out with the homes across from the school by June 4th, then after June 4th, we have to figure out a different financing method, because we couldn't wait any longer. At that point, we need to get the financing in place for the east side project, and then we'd have to decide if we do just like a loan for the homes across from the school, if we would do a separate bond, if we would do something else with it. But honestly, if we're out till June, we're probably having some problems with it, so it may not even happen this year anymore. What would probably that means is that some of the homeowners don't want to sign the assessment agreements. And if they don't want to sign the assessment agreements, we'll have to actually go through the formal assessment process with them. And if that's the case, it will push would push that south of the school project probably into next year to meet all the deadlines. So if everything goes well, we'll add it to this. If it doesn't go well, we'll have to work something else out in the future.
Well, I just get a little bit worried because I think about the sale of that land out there and MediaCom money coming in and the good things we can do with that. I'm afraid we're gonna dump it into sewer and water.
Oh no,
It's gonna be gone.
we'll do things with that money.
Right.
We'll do things with it.
Yep.
Not this.
Any further discussion? Any other questions? If not, we will, first of all, take a motion to approve the Resolution 2014 providing for the competitive negotiated sale of $2,330,000 of general obligation bond Series 2013 Alpha.
So moved.
I'll second.
A motion by Merle, a second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next one is a motion to approve Resolution 2015, establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement of bond regulations under the IRS code.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Bill, a second by Merle. Any further discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. And finally, motion to approve the financial advisory service agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Merle, and second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Mayor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Moves us to item 8C, which is the Billsby Dam update. It must be holding up because we're not swimming.
I thought I'd talk about a lighter topic. I'm Josh Peterson with Dakota County. Work in the former Water Resources Department, now Environmental Resources. I have a quick presentation here, depending upon how much time you want to talk about the dam. Let me get going here, and then we'll get it figured
Okay.
out. All right.
Leroy, can you hit those lights?
Hit the one closest to us, Leroy. No. Closest to us.
Yeah, that-
That one. No, that one, yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Let's see. presentation.
I'll check in the back.
Thanks. This update, like I said, just a short update. We're talking directly about the spillway project that's occurring. I'm sure citizens here and the city council is well aware of that project that's occurring right now or has been in motion for quite some time. We're planning to construct here this summer, and so we're kind of going through the process of public interaction now to kind of inform the residents in the area of what's occurring and what's going on with this project involving the dam. So.
Our iPads don't have this problem.
No.
I didn't want to see a movie anyway.
Just put in the right stuff here.
No
No,
popcorn
it's right
available.
down there, so
Okay.
unfortunately, sometimes if you have an older computer,
It doesn't connect.
it doesn't like, they don't like to read each other sometimes.
Really?
I apologize.
Okay.
I suppose you can try to set your monitor underneath here.
I could try. We'll see if it looks good.
Yeah, we do have that problem sometimes. but it doesn't
See if that works.
always.
Well, you're kind of getting it.
Well,
Now it's not working on anything, is it?
no, but it
No.
should work there. We just had us. I don't know which one it is to get it on that. How do we get back on that?
Technology rocks.
You got it?
Maybe. Nobody knows for sure.
Oh, it ain't blinking no more. There.
Try to put it on here, best you can do.
Okay.
We can't get it, to- it's not working through that, so if you can try to set it on here, maybe you can get.
Yeah, we'll try to get it working.
This may
It's
not,
kind of hokey, but yeah.
too much reflection on your screen,
Yeah.
probably. I don't think we can,
Turn these lights down.
that won't help much. Well,
All right.
terrible.
I'll kind of make an improv here. Hopefully you can see. I had some really awesome visuals, so maybe I can give you guys a presentation after the fact.
I'll hold it for you so you don't have to.
Oh, it's okay. I can hold it. That's the button too. Thanks, Jeff. Just a quick overview. You guys are obviously aware we have a high hazard dam here 2 miles upstream of the city. 2 county parks located on both sides. Originally built in 1911. On average, it generates about 11,200 megawatt hours per year. Tallest section, 55-foot tall, 1,000-foot long, and this facility does not operate around a river regulated by the DNR. This is this kind of location map. Really quickly, just to kind of go through this, if you can kind of see it, the powerhouse is there. Right there, it popped up as the sluice gates at the bottom of the dam. Existing crest gates at the top, existing overflow spillway, and the existing fuse plug. This is just a picture on the inside of the units, the 3 units that we operate inside the facility. I won't bore you with too much of the history, but basically the dam was built by Northern State Power back in 1911. Facilities operated, Northern State Power now obviously, Xcel Energy was operated by them until about 1969. At that time, they then sold the facility to Goodhue in Dakota County for $1. And then the county let it sit dark for quite a while and then went through a redevelopment phase with a third-party operator. An operator did operate that facility as kind of a lease agreement for about 20 years now. And then recently, the past couple of years, that agreement has been renegotiated, and Goodhue County has sold their portion directly to Dakota County. So Dakota County now operates the facility solely with a third-party operator agreement with the same company that we had as a lease agreement. So, and Goodhue County no longer has a stake in the facility. This is a really fuzzy photo of the construction, courtesy of Jason Peterson over at Goodhue County. So what are we, the county's responsible for operations, maintenance, capital improvement budgets, high water management, as you saw last June, long-term planning, dealing with the emergency action plan, as Jeff's well aware of, dam safety surveillance and monitoring, compliance regulation, also a operating agreement with third-party operator. They tend to handle the day-to-day issues, managing turbines, managing power production issues, daily monitoring, inspections, coordinating with us as well. So specifically to the spillway upgrade, what's going on here recently? Basically back in 2007, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the FERC, it's the federal entity that basically manages or regulates our facility, sent us a letter, and they basically stated two things. First thing is that we need to increase our spillway conveyance capacity from about 45,000 CFS to 80,000 CFS, so a half a probable maximum flood to a full probable maximum flood. These are theoretical storm events. It's really to accommodate the high hazardness of the facility. The likelihood of if you had an overtopping and it breached, you'd rather pass that flow than dealing with a dam breach. So their idea is pass the flow rather than having it too much head on the facility and damaging the facility. The second point they made was the removal of an existing fuse plug due to recent failures. There's actually been a couple failures, one in Wisconsin and one in UP, with these fuse plugs prematurely failing. They're really just a sand embankment that's designed to fail. It has an internal concrete core wall, and as soon as you get a certain amount of vent that stops it, it takes a certain period and it just erodes it away. There was a couple instances where those failed prematurely. So they've the FERC's kind of pushed to kind of disband all these fuse plugs around the region just due to those failures. So not saying ours is concerning, although we do monitor it, but it's just one of those things I think they're trying to housekeep and take care of these issues. So once again, that same photo showing the construction area and the existing fuse plug on the south side over in the Goodhue County side. Like I said, this whole spillway upgrade project kind of began in 2007, so this has been 5-6 years in the making. We went through some studies to go through the probable flood, maximum flood analysis, determined that we had what size of flood does this actually need to accommodate. We went through preliminary plans, designs, to this point now where we're going through permitting, compliance, regulation issues, and now approvals to start construction here next month. Some of the challenges to this project, obviously, are dam safety regulatory requirements. These guys come in from a Washington level and a regional level as well, and they have a floating target sometimes when you deal with these issues, and there's a lot of alternatives they can throw your way. So going through this alternative analysis phase and preliminary design phase has been a challenge. Trying to mitigate costs, not having an $8 million project, trying to make it a $6 million project. Potential failure mode analysis, this is just a term they use at the regulatory level, dealing with looking at all the failure modes that could occur on the facility and then mitigating those out with your design. So look at if there was some kind of failure issue you could see ever occurring, you design it to mitigate that failure mode. Another challenge is coordinating with 3 other major projects in the area, which I'll touch on here shortly. Minimizing impact to residents upstream and downstream of the project, that has been also a large hurdle for constructability issues. And then permitting agency coordination and understanding. This is the current plan for the spillway upgrade as it is now. Goodhue County Parks here on this be the lower left-hand side. So the Billsby Dam, you can kind of see the right there in the middle on the top, and then this right here is the new set of gates from the spillway. You can see the new pedestrian bridge which the DNR is putting in downstream of the dam as well. I have a better photo. These are just construction photos, or I'm sorry, construction photo, design documents here for the dam. These 2 gates are 65 foot by 14 foot tall, large, massive gates. They pass at normal flows about 10,000 CFS a piece. So when you talk about flood events, they pass a lot of water. This is a rendering we put together with our Parks Department, dealing with the bridge and coordinating with the bridge and as well as the spillways. So today, there's an earthen embankment there. Tomorrow, you can see those are the gates that are going to be installed on the side of the dam. The downstream of it will be it'll just be excavated bedrock, as it is kind of similar to today. And then the bridge downstream, which will be a nice view corridor for patrons on both sides of the park. This is a photo of some example of just some gates, very proportional sized gates that have been installed recently here. And boy, I want to say that's Minnesota, but I'm not sure. Those are 45 foot wide by 12 foot tall. So ours are 65 foot by 14 foot tall. So these are pretty close, similar sizes. To give you a good idea of what size the gates these are, they're going to be built in two pieces. So the lower piece there, and then they come out and they bring them on. They haul them out on a truck. They fabricate them on site. They bolt them together and then they weld them on site. Each gate weighs 40 ton apiece. And each hydraulic cylinder that basically hooks to each side of the gate is going to weigh about 3 ton apiece. So these are large gates. Some of the projects I was talking to you about is coordination-wise. DNR, Millstown's Trail Pedestrian Bridge. They anticipate construction of that bridge starting in July 2013. Not an exact date on that yet, but I anticipate they'll be finished up with the bridge by the end of the year. So that bridge will be, you'll be able to go out there next year and be able to view all this. Also, Xcel Energy transmission line relocation. This is not anything to do with CapEx. This is just basically accommodating both our projects by relocating the line downstream to be sure it's not within the way of the spillway. Easement access, property acquisitions. There's been a lot of movement out there with property acquisitions with Goodhue County and the Parks and Trails Council, who they loosely tie with the DNR. And then the mill and overlay. That's obviously, you guys are aware of. It's occurring on 19, starting this spring, I believe, whenever spring starts. So this is a really, you can't tell at all, but it's another just kind of it's really showing all the projects coordinating here. So in the red is our spillway, and then there's the line relocation that's downstream further, and then the yellow, you can kind of see where the pedestrian bridge is going to land. Where we are today, 100% design documents are complete. They've been submitted to permitting agencies. Almost all of the permitting agencies have signed off, with just the last couple button-up issues. This is actually going to be done in 2 different contracts. The Crestgate Design and Fabrication is one contract, so it's a company out of Massachusetts that actually fabricates these on site and delivers them. And then the General Site Construction Spillway Gate Installation, that was actually bid, and bids were open Friday for that. So next steps, April 18th, we're going to be, actually this Thursday, we're meeting with Lake Billsby Improvement Association. We've met with them several times through this process, and some of the issues we were going through for constructability. Just giving them the latest update of what's going on. On April 23rd, we are taking this to our board for approval of construction. On May 7th, the general site construction begins. Delivery of gates is this November. Spring of 2014, wet testing of crest gates. And then August of 2014 is construction completion. So what do we care about here? Will this project impact residents? Lake residents will not see a lake level impact during construction. I know there's been rumors after rumors floating around about the lake level impacts. There was prior designs that were dealing with drawdowns and discussions with preliminary designs with drawdowns. The current design has mitigated, with constructability, mitigated the issue with lake level drawdowns. So the new gates during construction, anything during construction will not restrict, impound, or control water in any different way you're seeing today. You're not going to see anything different. You're not going to see a bunch of water coming downstream. So it's being mitigated in a way that construction is going to mitigate those issues. So the project is staged to minimize risk downstream residents. That's huge. Really mitigating the failure concerns. There's a cofferdam that's being constructed in place upstream. We're also leaving the fuse plug in place during the majority of the construction. So the gates will be built downstream the fuse plug, allowing you then to put in the cofferdam and do all the upstream removals. So you're not really dealing with a constructability cofferdam issue. You're dealing with an existing fuse plug blocking the water while you're building the gates. And then once the gates are installed, you're excavating everything upstream, thus mitigating the flooding concerns. So This project's been coordinated with Goodhue County and City Cannon Falls for critical points during construction, or will be coordinated, I should say, with a temporary emergency action plan. So all the right EMA, Goodhue County Sheriff's Office, Dakota County Sheriff's Office, Jeff, City of Cannon Falls will all be involved for pre-con meetings, dealing with site meetings, dealing with critical points of construction, dealing wet gate testing. We're gonna have people on alert for wet gate testing. When they're bringing gates on site and installing them, there'd probably be a critical point as well, so. And it's a run-of-river facility. We still have to pass flow required, but the new gates will have better control of these flows. You see now the waters rise, and we open a few gates and they don't do anything, and that's just how it is. We can't manage water any further than what we have. So now this gives us the ability to manage the lake level and the water downstream and basically pass that as a run-of-river, so. With that, I'll leave it to questions. I have my contact info there. You can barely see it, but I can send this presentation over to Aaron. He can pass it. Yeah, so if you have any questions,
I don't have any at this time. Leroy?
Yeah, I don't know, it isn't gonna be drawn down at all?
No.
So how do you guys put them overflow gates in there without doing that? You put in temporary dams in front of it or something, or what?
Yeah, the way it's constructed is downstream of the existing facility, so we're just doing all the
okay.
work downstream of the dam, and then we're tying it in with some sheet piles, basically, just putting in sheet piles to tie it back into the existing structure.
Oh, okay.
And then once the gates are installed, that's basically, you've got your spillway in, and then you can do all the work upstream. You'll just put in a temporary construction cofferdam that will manage flows for all that upstream excavation, so.
I find it kinda interesting, I think the first time I was in that dam was in the sixties. I've been out there different times on calls. This is the first time I hear about them fuse links or them things, whatever you call them, those relief plugs or whatever.
The fuse plug?
Yeah,
Yeah.
never heard about that.
It's just an emergency overflow point. It's really,
Right.
you should never, I mean, you shouldn't see it. It's meant to be mitigating storms in the 300 to 400 to 500 year level, so
Yeah.
extreme events.
I think it's really good that, a dam like that is, you know, it should make money and it should work and stuff. And I think you guys were in a joint effort with Goodhue County before, right? And, now you guys taking it over and you're willing to spend the money and bring it up to date and to do the best things. And, I think Dakota County should probably be thanked for that. So I guess that'd be my biggest comment.
Any other comments?
How much are the lease payments
Lease payments for,
from the hydroelectric operator to the county?
I'm not sure if I can disclose it. It was a private agreement done with the attorneys, so I don't know if I can necessarily disclose what that agreement is with them. So, it's not lucrative.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 8D, the farmer's market relocation.
The Chamber Board talked about it actually last week, and their board supports continuing with the move. They had their discussion with it. I would assume they had discussions with membership that might be impacted, and the board supports trying the move, see how it goes. You know, and the conversation I think has been is if you give it a little time and it doesn't work and we decide we want to switch it back in the future, we can always do that. But they think it's the best long-term location for it as well. So, you know, that, I guess with that, it's, you know, if the council still wants to stay with the decision to move it, I'll send out some notices and we'll post some notices and, you know, those sort of things and see. Like we talked about before, you can't always make everybody happy when you do these things, but we'll give it a try. But I just think, you know, from all the reasons we've discussed, with the ability of parking and long-term signage and, you know, those sort of things, it seems to make sense. And I think it'll alleviate some issues downtown with parking. And if I'm wrong and it doesn't go well, then we can always discuss it again later and we can move it back.
What, can we get, Public Works, working on some signage so it's in place here? I mean, I know the weather's been so conducive to farmer's market so far, but, so we have something in place in May, you know, maybe set hours, you know, 7 to noon or something like that.
We'll, the chamber want to talk about that too, and signage and things, so we'll try to coordinate with the chamber, and we'll try to coordinate with the people at the farmer's market, and we'll get some nice signage and get that figured out with them. I know that they had some ideas for it, so.
Now, during the, this, I guess you call it a transition year, this would be more for you, Jeff, how you would handle, because some of them will show up at the city parking lots, the overflow lot.
We just got a new case of taser cartridges.
All right.
No, I anticipate that, the initial transition will go fairly smoothly with the signage. We will have the day officers swinging through and just reminding people they need to be over at the other location. Once, we get sort of past that initial part, if we get, people that are setting up anyway, would probably, look at issuing some sort of citation for being in there, when they need to be in the other one. But that would be well after we've given them lots of warnings and tried to help walk them down to where they should be.
Well, I would say probably the first few weeks will be the issue. After that, I think it'll go away, but.
Yeah, I really think that, with, as Aaron alluded to, the chamber's interested in getting some signage and making it more, not formal, but, really giving a location that would be conducive.
Right.
And still maintain our main parking lot for, the business use and, the trailhead area usage. I really think it'll probably catch on and be accepted pretty smoothly by the people that go there.
I see no reason to change what we've already decided, and let's see how it works.
Okay, so this time the chair will take a motion to go ahead with the moving of the farmer's market.
So moved.
And I'll second that.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Robbie, could I just make a quick comment on that?
Yep.
I had people call me, quite a few people call about the move. Then the ones that called didn't like it. They asked me if we got a hold of the farmers market people themselves, and I said, I only know of one. I said, I'm sure we got a record of who's there, but no, we didn't get a hold of them. So I talked to Aaron about that, if we did have a record, and Aaron said, no, we don't. So I told Aaron I thought it should be brought up at committee meetings on Public Works or something, that we definitely have to go to some kind of permit so we know who is down there. In my reasoning for Aaron was, if you have some kind of an E. coli outbreak or something and it got traced back to our farmers market, we don't even have the names of people who are down there or what's going on. So I think we got to consider that. I also had people say to me, you're catering to the bikers down there. And I've told them all that's not what we're doing. We're trying to get the congestion out of that parking lot. There's just too much being shoved into that one box. The other thing I said to them was, of course, the people that are selling always want the front row by the highway. We've asked them to go in the back of the lot. They don't like that back there because it can't be seen. So after I told them all our reasons that I thought we should do this, and that if we do get the trail from this overflow parking lot underneath that bridge and stuff, you could actually park in the Econo Foods lot, walk down to the farmer's market if you wanted, or you can actually go to the other side underneath the bridge, get the other side of the road without even crossing. Having these people right by this highway down there is a real safety issue because many people are in a hurry. They want to pull up, roll down their windows, give me a bag of corn real quick. They're blocking traffic. So there's a lot of thought that's been put into this, that we need to do this, and it's all because of expansion and safety. So we've talked about it a lot. Thank you, Robbie.
I just think instead of, basically just have a registration instead of maybe doing a, so they don't have a license, but at least have a registration so that we know who's there, would be a lot better than.
I do know Pat Anderson at the chamber did talk to one vendor who evidently didn't seem to mind too much, but.
Right.
Okay. Thanks. This time we'll move on to item 8E, which is Soil and Water Stewardship Week proclamation.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm Ed McNamara, a supervisor of the Goodhue County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I'm asked for some time on your agenda tonight to ask for the council's support of Soil and Water Conservation Stewardship Week, which is April 28th through May 5th. As part of Goodhue County since 1940, the Goodhue County Soil and Water Conservation District would like to remind each of us has a connection with our natural resources. This year is the 58th year of that the National Association of Conservation Districts has offered a Stewardship Week. And part of Stewardship Week is to promote watershed awareness within Goodhue County and its cities. Clean water is important to all of us. Part of your discussion earlier tonight was about water, and you talked about the dam here, so we're all dealing with water one way or the other. Goodhue County covers roughly 485,000 acres, but we need to think bigger than that for the watersheds. Watersheds don't follow county lines. We normally think of the larger watersheds such as the Mississippi River, or the Vermilion River, the Cannon River, or the Zumbro watersheds. However, we can further focus on the smaller watersheds such as Hay Creek, Trout Brook, or even Wells Creek, or the smaller ones such as your own neighborhoods. They cross the county, state, and even national boundaries. Every inch of the land on the planet Earth is in a watershed. In Goodhue County, there are 19 minor watersheds, and I believe you got a copy of that nice colorful map within Goodhue County. Cannon River watershed alone drains 946,000 acres, all of which end up in the city of Red Wing. The Vermilion River watershed drains 341,000 acres. The Zumbro watershed on the southern third of Goodhue County actually drains parts of Steele, Rice, Dodge, and Olmsted County, and that totals 1.3 million acres. So no matter where you are right now, you are in a watershed. Less than 1% of all the water on our planet Earth is fresh water. The average citizen in the United States uses 70 gallons of water every day, and this does not include the water taken to manufacture the automobiles, clothing, and food that we depend on each day. So I would like to, part of our focus is to encourage the communities to, think about their water resources, volunteer for cleaning up on the river, stream, or beach in the cleanup days. The figures that I had, I think they got that spreadsheet out there too. So just some clarification on that. The watershed above Cannon Falls drains 811,000 acres, and if you put 1 inch of water on that, you would have 22 billion gallons of water, and that's with 1 inch of rain. Now, in the past, Goodhue County has been having, our rainfall is averaging about 28 inches of rain, and now we're up to about 31 inches of rain in an average year. So you take that 22 billion times 31, you've got a lot of water. And the goal of the Soil and Water Conservation District is for ag best management practices on agricultural lands, including contour farming, buffers, no-till farming, cover crops, grass waterways, terraces, rotational grazing. These practices help stabilize the soils, prevent and reduce soil erosion, and improve water quality and wildlife habitat. I guess I'd like to leave you with one quote from one of our founding fathers, Patrick Henry, in a speech after the Revolution said, "He is the greatest patriot who stops the most gullies. Erosion does not stop on the land.
poor soil makes poor communities and poor people. So I would ask that you would support the signing of the proclamation, and that we'll have all the city council members sign it and get a picture of it to, show the people of the community that your commitment to soil and water conservation, and then I would leave a copy of that here with the city council to post in a prominent location. So, do you have any questions for me?
I just think, it's good that we conserve our water and we keep our waterways clean. I mean, because if you know, all of us are made up of over 90% water, so, without it, we wouldn't be here. And for those at home that don't know what the proclamation says, I'll read it out to them. The Soil and Water Stewardship Week 2013 proclamation, whereas fertile soil and clean water provide us with our daily subsistence, and whereas effective conservation practices have helped provide us a rich standard of living, and whereas our security depends on healthy soil and clean water, and whereas stewardship falls on each of us, calls for each person to help conserve these precious resources. Therefore, we do hereby proclaim April 28th to May 5th, 2013 Soil and Watershed Stewardship Week. And with that, if there's no further discussion, I'll take a motion to approve the proclamation.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. And that brings us to reports. And Mr. Maroney.
Talk with Bill for a couple minutes after the meeting. Do you have time?
Okay.
I have nothing tonight.
Chief?
Well, we've had the dam presentation this evening. You learned how much water falls in our area. And we have a storm that's, we received notice on that has put us on potential flood alert, flood watch for Wednesday through Friday. Right now, the spillway gates are still in their winter position, so any water that comes into the dam will just go over the dam. We will be monitoring the rivers starting Wednesday, probably through the weekend. Should we see some high water levels, we're certainly, notify the appropriate residents and take the steps necessary. Sadly, we're getting pretty good at this. The event in 2010, 2012, and a smaller event in 2011. So we're just waiting to see how much rain comes, and we'll deal with what comes down the river. That's primarily what I have.
That's all we can do, because we have to live with what Mother Nature gives us.
And then summer will arrive, because it's still winter.
Aaron? No? Merle?
Nothing.
No.
Bill?
Nothing today.
Leroy?
Hey, Aaron, I just got to warn you here. When all the people were here and we were talking about the east side, I thought probably it wasn't a good time to bring it up because the meeting would last another half an hour. So I thought I'd give this to you tonight, and I'll get back to you so you can give me some feedback. But the one concern I have with that east side project is that as I listen to these people, it's about $20,000 for their hookups and whatever assessments and stuff. And I can't help but wonder, we put in curb and gutter and sewer and water and all this for about $6,500, and we completely replaced everything up on the west side up there. So how do we get so high? The other thing I'm concerned about is that any enlarging adjustments we have to do to plan for them extra lots someday, that should definitely all be put on them lots and not a part of the project. This whole project we're talking about here, Greg would tell you probably an 8-inch sewer main would handle the whole thing. And we're probably gonna have to put in 12 or something, or 14, because of what could happen. So I don't know how we get that difference in the prices, but we need to do what is fair on this thing. I'll talk to you about it sometime.
I got answers.
I have nothing.
And I have nothing except that I'll make a proclamation that we don't get any more snow until December. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Yep.